the right and left channels have to be synchronized and balanced. Synced and balanced. And it's kind of like a telescope or something. And so if we're out here, the level of divergence could be, tiny. But that's going to equate to being so far off the mark that if this is the civilization in time space, okay, that you're like hitting, you're just going to end up with like a 1,000,000-year gap, and that's darkness. So then it has to be true, and what comes in is exactly what goes out. And then so it's kind of like hemispheres of your brain have to be synced and communicate properly, like bio feedback, neurofeedback syncing, or what is it, the feedback response, I can't think of the terminology, training or something like that. Bio neurofeedback, and just lights and tones that synchronize the right and left part of the brain until they're perceptually and like cognitively in alignment. And so what if in that sense lost my place. And so then to kind of, this is what we have in order to be in a physical space like this. There's more or less the analytical, it might be the other way, but and creative side, and the two combine. You say even alternate, but they maybe they alternate so fast that they become one whole in like a quantum sense, and then out of that you get the projection. Well, maybe not that, but you get the central core and then the projection, which is around it. You get the self and the reality, space and time, the geometry and distance. And so then there is an imbalance of that to the point where it seemingly, it bottoms out over long periods of time. And I think that's just like this metaphor for consistency, where it's almost like a dimensional reflection system, and what's going on here is almost like there's an equal reflection, kind of, if you will, below it. Not, I'm making it smaller because I ran out of space. And so it's as if the speed and direction, if you will, of your ascent, call it that, it was really just your progress, your what would happen if you took the energy you're at now, the blueprint you have, the forward motion, and then multiplied exponentially times itself. What would be the final result? What would you end up as? And so a lot of what's going on is consistency for the masses, because if this thing kind of like if we all tried to shift in opposite directions or at different rates of speed, it results in variety in smaller systems but chaos in a larger system like this. So it has to be smoothed over, basically, so the whole system can move into alignment. And that's pretty much what it is. It doesn't mean that there won't be pain or suffering. Maybe there won't be unnecessary suffering, at least once it's known. And maybe it won't be that everything and every one we perceive seeing here is someone there. That might be part of the illusion. Aspects of your life here might not be part might not be there. And so in that sense, identifying with the illusion of us here could equate to building yourself in time, in like a million years, as something so far off of the source civilization that we're basically going to and back to, and it's all this, we never let, I don't know, the same consistent simultaneous realization. It would be like a cosmic insanity where it would result in, it would be as if you created nations of nations out of you and they just fought and went to war and destroyed each other. That would be a long time of suffering before people would get out of that, because their spirit would be stuck in those systems. And then, so if that was what's happening, the removal of that high energy, the spirit, into, you know, something higher would draw awareness, like the consciousness awareness, or actually it would be, it's like the mechanized aspect of what physical life kind of struggles to remain as without that down here becomes literally robotic. And it would be like being, in a sense, conscious without being aware, to the point where the consciousness would just become a program that would, I mean, the chance of that then syncing up with that spirit or that soul of that individual would be, I mean, next to none, without at least massive whole system assistance. Because again, if the whole universe is literally moving this way in time, and because of degradation programs and all types of mistakes, things by default relativity would perceive to be dragging opposite in time into entropy by the result of the kickback of such a forward motion into neg entropy. You know, so everything has to be synced up in that sense. And then, but still, those who position themselves so they're literally like facing the opposite direction, I mean, it'd be kind of like on one of them treadmills at the airport that ends up going 100 miles an hour, or 100,000 miles an hour, and maybe it goes like that for 100 million years, and it bends time. Maybe say it's say it's a million miles an hour, and it bends time to the point where you get there relatively a lot less, and you don't age, to the point where, however, you can't change the fact that if you're pointed in a different direction, it's going to bend time that way and shoot you off in a direction that, if your beingness tries to then step off and grip into that society, it might just shatter what we're capable of, because the blueprint isn't capable of that. Sorry for the anyway. And so then other way of looking at that is oops, and we have lost sync with, all right, another way of looking at that is not yet, is with it's kind of as if these systems, you know, underworld, if you will, and it's as if that's the Earth society, you could call it, and just move, and it's always in flux, where the whole of civilization is moving with itself. So it's like a collective motion towards something greater, instead of ripping in half. And in that sense, which would tear things up. And so then, if you're here, it would be like, given the amount of time you have and the opportunities and effort you have to create that, or to achieve them, just daily things, day by day, okay? And then, say you lag behind and it's a couple of years, or more or less, say you slip into some type of depression or pain or unnecessary suffering, put it that way, maybe. All types of, okay, so maybe draw your body. It's like anyway, probably shouldn't be making geometry jokes. And so now say you have the emotional system. Maybe we'll do it this way, because at the highest frequencies they move the fastest and go the farthest. And so where you're at in here is like that, and then over there is just meh. And so and more so meh, because it's not just, oh, woe is me, I'm sad. It's literally like, I'm sad and I'm going to take it out on you. It's like toxic. It's below like a human threshold, if you will. But we're not looking at absolutes, because I don't know if anybody really has the power to determine that. However, there are obvious signs and messages in terms of how this works, and more or less what's happening, in terms that the absolutes doesn't mean that like an ultimate destruction couldn't be realized by somebody who completely disregarded any sensibility. But then, so where you are in here, okay, is going to determine where you are in here in terms of relativity. Like this is a joystick of some sort, of throttle. And so it's your speed, your forward motion in time space. And you could also say that it's kind of the center convergence point that determines where you're going. You kind of go to wherever this is pointing is where you're going to go forward, and your mind can literally do things out here with your body, but unless this is actually seeing it in space, heart space, if you will, where you're supposed to be going, you can't determine where you are in terms of on this map. And it's as if this is that digital architecture. Okay, it's like the archaic prison, and if you slip into here, this is the version of Earth. And basically after after temporal decay, and say this would be destruction, if you will, or annihilation. But it would just be, this would just mean, okay, and then say these are millions of years apart, so this would say be 10 million, and that's the maximum distance you can have in order to ever reach it back into the source, which is technically temporally stable, but in that sense moving further away because this is consistently moving further down. So it's like a slippery slope, kind of a singularity, a vortex, or event horizon, like a black hole. This is a black hole, and if you will, is metaphorically, but it's for the one's ability to process information, move upwards with the amount of variation coming into the realm, keep their mind, body, and soul clean, meaning genetically, mentally, emotionally, from technology, parasites, mental, and toxins, biological, all types of stuff. To the point where if things are just getting, if too much was added to this realm that are in conflict, eventually it's going to basically downsize and reduce to just what is strong enough to make that that cut, basically, when all of it's combined. So it's pretty messed up, if you will, but it's also kind of how things always were and would make sense. And as well, it doesn't have to be that way, because it seems like we're just going down, when in reality, what if it is a kind of expansion if we don't devolve into war and crime? You know, in terms of the potentiality of a temporal ultimatum, in the sense that we all have a limited amount of energy, and because there's so much that's going that way, it's not going to float out that way. All of this is so conflicting, it's going to collapse in on itself and have that one remain. Then everyone pretty much does have a plan and a strategy, if you will, for keeping their energy towards the Most High, so that collectively, or individually and collectively, they move out of the archaic past, out of these routines that would be more and more present if we fell into the dark ages spiritually, basically, mentally, intellectually, and genetically, and biologically, and physically or astronomically, considering some of the experiments and potential disruptors that could be present on the planet right now. I think a lot of people are realizing it's not really a joke. If people are messing with every single life force on the planet, that means it's you too. All right, that's pretty much the idea. Thank you.